Look at the local dailies in depth. State House scare is the main headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. Alarms, several security breaches have rocked the president's official residence, including the killing of an intruder in 2017. But yesterday, there was a very bizarre occurrence there once again. Kithuka Kimunyi was loitering around State House, Nairobi yesterday when he drew an arrow and shot General Service Unit Officer Ramadan Matanka to death. It emerged the two were known to each other. What was the reason for this deadly fallout between apparent bosom buddies outside Kenya's premier address? Now they knew each other. This guy is 56-year-old. Kithuka Kimunyi, accused of killing a GSU officer with a bow and arrow at the State House gate along Dennis Street Road, is held at Kilimani Police Station yesterday. Alisema ni shetani alimdanganyishia akafanya hiyo mambo. Tukiangalia story vizuri, it says how the incident unfolded, that Kithuka Kimunyi approaches gate D. He then gets into a long conversation with Officer Ramadan Matanka while other officers are conducting a security search on a car. Kimunyi draws a bow and arrow and shoots Matanka. Then Matanka is rushed to hospital but then succumbs to his injuries. Now, the officer did not appear apprehensive, even as the suspect approached him, according to source, as reported by the Daily Nation this morning. Official account of the attack differs from what sources say was captured on CCTV. The Inspector General of Police, IG Kanja, has also condemned the attack and commended officers who managed to subdue and arrest the suspect. This is the most secure address, and they ask a question on the inside pages of this newspaper, page 5 to be specific, and they say most secure address, maybe perhaps not. This is on page 5. State House scare. Other quick headlines: MPs think tank warns against higher taxes, and Parliament budget experts have asked the National Treasury to stop burdening Kenyans with extra taxes, arguing that past increases have not yielded the projected revenues, and the Parliamentary Budget Office says new taxes have stoked widespread public apathy and led to poor revenue collection. The amount by which the government missed revenue targets in the past 2 years has been said to be 342 billion shillings. Matters elections here as well. Only 20,000 of projected 6 million new voters listed, and the Election Commission has lamented about low turnout among the targeted youth. Registration at Huduma centers and in the 290 constituencies was intended to ramp up listing of the Gen Zs. Matters education as well given prominence in the front page. Varsity crisis deepens after collapse of Dawn's pay talks, and talks to resolve the month-long lecturer strike have ended in a stalemate. The unions walked out after the government failed to commit to pay their members 7.9 billion shillings outstanding arrears. This 7.9 is according to the lecturers. However, the government says that it owes them around 624 billion shillings thereabout. They say that 7.2 billion shillings was already paid to them, according to the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. How Gachagua party growing influence has stirred Mount Kenya on the top strip. Power struggle and a fierce political battle is brewing in the region as former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua moves to consolidate the voting bloc under his new party. And 4,000 workers challenge sacking by sugar farms. The employees say talks on their terminal benefits and other perks are still ongoing. These are the stories making headlines on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Lakini on the back page, Kenya search for 100th World Cup qualifier goal in Abidjan. Harambee Stars look to upset Cote d'Ivoire in a city the Kenyan lads have never lost. And the World Cup qualifying match that Kenya will register when they play Cote d'Ivoire in Abidjan today is 84th. Morocco to host African World Cup playoffs next month is another story there as well on sports. And the Ivorian city may be sweet, but who will be left bitter tonight? Yes, that is in Abidjan. These are the stories making headlines on the Daily Nation.
All right, one more story there, and we could be discussing this because we'll be having at least one MP from Nairobi. Is on page 6 of the Daily Nation. Mixed reactions after Ruto offers to support Nairobi. At the weekend, the president spoke na akasema ni ukweli. We cannot just allow Nairobi to be drowning in filth. Yeah, and that coming from the president, many people are wondering, okay, fine. So the president said Nairobi cannot be left to continue drowning in garbage and having muddy roads. What does that say about the governor when the president says Nairobi ni kama iko down? Anyway, from the Daily Nation, Taifa Leo, habari ni ile habari kuu pale ukurasa wa mbele, habari kutoka Ikulu, Mauti Ikulu, afisa wa GSU adungwa hadi kufa kwa mshale langoni mwa Ikulu ya Nairobi katika tukio nadra na la kushtua. Mauaji ya langoni mwa Ikulu ya Nairobi yaliyotekelezwa na mwanaume aliyebeba mshale yanazua hofu kuhusu kiwango cha usalama katika makazi ya rais. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili, lakini nimeona kutoka kwa hiyo gazeti ya Nation wanasema ni kama walikuwa wanajuana. Huyu siati, it was not random. Alikuja na alikuwa anajua nani ana target. Kithuka Kimunyi ndio yule pale mshukiwa. Habari nyingine, dereva wa takataka, na takataka imewekwa kwenye nini parenthesis, akunja mkia. Dereva wa mbunge aliendesha gari katika mkondo usiofaa atozwa faini ya $100,000. Alikuwa alipe $100,000 ama ahudumie kifungo cha mwaka mmoja. Alisema pelekea hiyo Ruto takataka. Upinzani hautawaweza Ruto na Raila, asema Kindiki. Naibu wa rais asifu ushirikiano wa UDA na ODM akisema utazaa ushindi mwaka 2027. Habari yenyewe kwenye ukurasa wa 4. Na masuala ya kilimo, sukari, wafanyikazi 4,000 wasaka kinga kotini. Hawa ni wafanyikazi wa Nzoia, Muhoroni na Chemelil. Pia Sony Sugar ambao kwa hatarini kufutwa. Pale juu, rais wa Madagascar atorokea Ufaransa. Na hii ni baada ya jeshi kuungana na Gen Z kumwekea shinikizo. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 8. Masuala ya sporti, of course, Harambee Stars kisiki cha mwisho kwa Ivory Coast. The Elephants wanahitaji ushindi leo kujihakikishia wanafuzu. Habari zilizopewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo.
The Standard, another experiment and another marriage, they ask. President William Ruto's newest youth empowerment drive, the 5 billion shillings Nyota Fund, is drawing fire from economists and politicians who say it mirrors past flops like the Hustler Fund. Now, critics argue the plan risks adding Kenya's ballooning debt while offering meager and sustainable grants of 50,000 shillings to a few. Analysts warn that without solid policy reform, Nyota may shine briefly, then fade like its predecessors. Now, the loan sourced from the World Bank, which according to the government will support 100,000 young people across the country, is 5 billion shillings. Now, the World Bank gave us 5 billion shillings for this. And okay, they say that amount the World Bank has agreed to advance the country for the entire program is 13.6 billion shillings. And we've only sourced 5 billion shillings. The amount each small entrepreneur beneficiary will get is 50,000 Kenyan shillings. The interviews for that began yesterday and they're still continuing. Ndindi Nyoro was of the opinion that whoever qualifies for this should at least get 100,000 Kenyan shillings. And this newspaper says, Nyota Fund, power to the youth or another ripoff, and the Nyota program financed by the World Bank targets people aged 18 to 29 years. And the funds have been described as bribery of voters disguised as empowerment. That is the only story covered on the front page of the Standard. Lakini tukiangalia ndani, page 2, school struggle financially as KCSE exam kicks off this week. Education PS said they are verifying school enrollment data before releasing funds. Head teachers body said schools are forced to take loans to keep operations running. And the percentage of schools that have received funding from the government this term is 80. The Ministry of Education says the rest will receive the money once enrollment verification process is completed. Lecturers reject pay offer, demand compliance with new agreement. Another story there on page 3. Opposition chiefs warn of Ruto's growing divide and rule tactics. Moi decisions to work with Ruto shakes Rift Valley national politics, that is Gideon Moi. And political analyst here one is quoted, Mashaya Munene anasema, I believe Gideon is looking at the bigger picture. He may be strategically positioning himself for future political ambitions. On the back page, Harambee Stars hoping to have the last laugh against Ivory Coast, and Kenya keen to deny Ivory Coast ticket to 2026 World Cup. And Ivory Coast and Gabon are separated by a point, and both are contention for World Cup slot. Today's group fixtures: Ivory Coast versus Kenya at 10 p.m. and Gabon versus Burundi at 10 p.m. as well. That's the Standard.
All right, from the Standard, we take a look at the People Daily. It does an analysis on Kenya's power club. They say locked out, how the political class decides for us and not with us. And this is a growing trend that politicians over time used public forum to actually radicalize their supporters against the other side. But then again, they get to a point where behind locked doors, they bridge the divide, they come together and decide, okay, fine, sasa tuko pamoja. Lakini kule nje wamewacha watu walikosana sana. And then wanakuja nje wasema sasa tuko pamoja, and then people are wondering, okay, I thought these are the people we don't like. So now how come we're liking them? So these decisions are made, the story is really about how decisions are made behind curtains, yet kule nje watu wanaambiwa mambo tofauti. Na hapa kuna wengi ambao, most of them are party leaders, ODM, UDA, ANC, which was dissolved, Ford Kenya, Moses Wetangula, PA of Jeffer Kingi, and Amason Kingi rather, Jeffer Kingi is a brother, and Gideon Moi of KANU. All of these people were at different loggerheads at some point. Now most of them are working together. Actually, this entire team is working together in deals that were cut behind closed doors. Without the involvement of Kenyans, you are just expected to move. Tukitoka nje tuseme tuko pamoja, sasa muna move. Kama kuna ule jamaa, I remember a time when one person who was really popular on X, Gabriel Oguda, was one of the biggest critics of William Ruto until his boss was appointed to the cabinet. And then now he's one of the biggest supporters. But he does not have an explanation. Yeye anasema anafuata vile kunaenda.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Yes, that's a big story there on People Daily. The other story given prominence, President Ruto promised 1 million jobs, only delivered 78,000. That's a story on page 5 of this paper. On that same page, it makes reference to that story we were talking about Nairobi. Yes, page 5 of the People Daily. Ruto slams Nairobi's decay and calls for overhaul of city management. We've seen this over and over again. You remember when the NMS came in to assist when Mike Sonko was governor. This time around, the president comes out and says, we cannot allow Nairobi to continue like this. We as national government now have to come in. What does that mean? And what does that, is it an indictment on the county administration and on devolution as a whole? Should Nairobi be left to county administration, or should it be run as a proper capital city, probably by the national government? That's a debate. And that's the People Daily today.
All right. The Star, Matiang'i 2027, ethnic factor hiccup in race for top post, and ex-cabinet secretary's ambitions constrained by brutal political arithmetic. This story is on page 4 and 5. Maybe they say numbers are stumbling block in Matiang'i bid for president in 2027. There's somebody quoted here and is saying, even the prime CS position that we initially thought we could give him is being eyed by Gachagua in the event his impeachment case is held and he regains the leeway to hold the public office. So they're saying Matiang'i cannot consolidate people from Kisii. Awalete hapo United Opposition.
Aliambiwa aenda sikuja na Jubilee, aenda atafute chama ya Kisii ndo kuja naye.
The Star inasema kuna venye that is a bit impossible. Counties adopted budget to hide wage bill. Here Margaret Nyakango makes it once again to the front page of this newspaper. Turkana, Bungoma, Kisumu, Bomet, Narok, Murang'a. A lot of counties here, as illustrated by this newspaper on page 6. Counties that adopted budget to hide wage bill. TB survivors want faster and simpler treatment. That's a feature on page 2. special feature, and court frees worker jailed for running over his boss.
This is a very interesting story. They say a mine worker who had been jailed for 25 years for killing his supervisor by running over him with an excavator after a work squabble has now been freed for lack of sufficient evidence. Walikosana hivi alafu akiendesha ile akajifanya okay, sisemi ati alijifanya. Wanasema tu alipita juu yake. Alipita juu yake.
Yes, and we all saw it in 20 kama huko na that thing is still pale social media.
Alisema alipita juu yake.
All right, that's the Star this morning. Fresh, independent, different. The Star is not for sale today, being a Tuesday.
And it comes with a complimentary copy of MyGov for government tenders and jobs. So do grab yourself a copy of this one. It's free. Na leo at least wametoa ile bei. Last week walikuwa na bei hapa. Wanasema not for sale, lakini wanasema 60 bob. So at least leo walikumbuka wakatoa bei. Haulipi pesa yote. Ukwe Uganda, Tanzania au Kenya. Fresh, independent, different. Business Daily, State House budget error reveals tender portal flaws. An erroneous, listen to this, 784 billion shilling, 84 trillion procurement plan from President William Ruto's office has revealed flaws in the government's digital procurement platform, exposing weaknesses in the system intended to address tendering fraud. Can we even comprehend 784 trillion shillings? Our budget, annual budget is 4.2 trillion. Yes. Kama ingekuwa Tanzania pengine, hao ndo wanakufikishanga budget ya 72 trillion, lakini bado this is way too much. Yes. So in the procurement plans uploaded by public entities on the Electronic Government Procurement EGP system, the Executive Office of the President says it plans to procure goods and services valued at over 784.3 trillion shillings, which is about 50 times Kenya's GDP. So ndo unashanga kama system inaweza accommodate that figure. What are you telling us? This system is supposed to be exact. Unaweka 784 trillion na system inaendelea. It's supposed to tell you that's a red flag therein. So that's a big story there. Other stories, CBK withholds Treasury's dividends first time in 7 years. Alafu kuna picha hapa watu wamefurahia sana. The president was in Konza, Technopolis yesterday na ameonekana pale na kina Mutula Kilonzo na minister wa ICTPS John Tanui na kuna MP hapa wa Mwala Vincent Kwawaya. Hawa ndio wale tunasemekana ati huwa wanakosana. Lakini wakipatana hivyo unaangalia yule anacheka hapa. Unaweza anyway. Wakenya huwa mnaenjoyiwa sana. On the ticker, IFC backs acquisition of Wananchi Group with 9.6 billion shilling funding and Sanlam to get 220 million in Jubilee Alliance deal. So that's the Business Daily. Just a reminder, State of the Nation will be having MP Dagoretti North, Beatrice Salachi in studio alongside MP Soy David Kiplagat and Wakili Harrison Kinyanjui. James Gakuya, unfortunately, will not be joining us. He is the MP Embakasi North. He sent his apologies this morning. That coming your way in a few minutes' time. We'll be speaking matters education later on with John Wanyonyi, head of school, Kitengela International School's junior school. That's quite a mouthful. On matters JSS preparedness, JSS exam preparedness in transition to grade 10. Tuangalie caricature sasa.